The sky seemed suspended in time, tinted with a dark blue so deep it threatened to dissolve the world into silence. The dirt road wound between abandoned fields, where the undergrowth danced in the ocean wind. Every yard he traveled increased the feeling of returning to something Ezra Delacroix didn't know if he wanted to face or simply forget. The black car, shiny and alone in the almost colorless landscape, stopped a few meters from a half-open fence. In the background, between the dunes, the house appeared. An old building, enveloped by layers of salt and memories. Low roof, peeling wood, windows with shutters damaged by the sea air. It seemed to breathe on its own, as if it knew that someone was about to cross its threshold. Ezra remained inside the car for a few minutes, staring at the house. His hands resting on the steering wheel were shaking slightly, not from the cold, but from something he couldn't name. In his pocket, the crumpled paper with the feminine handwriting burned into his conscience. "She's still waiting for you." There was no signature, no seal, just the key. Small, blackened metal with a navy blue ribbon bow. He descended. The air tasted of iron and sea spray. The sound of the waves, even in the distance, was almost hypnotic. The front door gave way with a long, slow groan, as if it were opening reluctantly. As soon as he stepped inside, the smell came. Damp wood, old dust, and perfume. A specific scent. Unmistakable. Ezra froze. "Camille," he whispered, almost without meaning to. But there was no answer. Only the creaking of the walls and the whisper of the curtains swaying in the sea wind that entered through some invisible crack. The entrance hall was intact. Even after so many years, the furniture was still arranged as it had been the last time. The alabaster sculpture of a woman bent over herself. The oval mirror with an iron frame that Camille said reflected intentions, not appearances. And on the sideboard, a portrait of the two of them, taken during a lost summer. He in his early 30s, with a tired and mysterious expression. She laughing, eyes closed, as if laughing more at the world than at the joke. Ezra ran his fingers over the surface of the photo. The thin layer of dust revealed the age, but the image looked freshly placed there. The main room was spacious, with large windows overlooking the sea. The grand piano sat in one corner, covered with a white sheet. He walked over and pulled back the sheet. The keys were yellowed, but in perfect condition. She remembered Camille playing there on nights, with a full moon. Always the same melody, Chopin's Nocturne No. 21. She said the notes of this nocturne echoed like emotional waves, sometimes soft, sometimes overwhelming. Ezra sat down and tried to play. Her tentative fingers found the sounds, but no harmony emerged. There was something missing, as if the piano only worked with her presence. He climbed the stairs. Each step creaked with a heavy echo. The upstairs hallway seemed narrower than he remembered. The doors were still closed, but one of them, the bedroom, was ajar. The setting sun cast an orange stripe across the bed, where the sheets were carefully stretched. On the pillow lay a black satin ribbon, like the ones Camille used to wear around her neck. Ezra sat on the edge of the bed. The feeling of familiarity was so strong it hurt. He closed his eyes, and that's when he heard it. Steps, downstairs. He stood up suddenly. He walked down the stairs in absolute silence, trying not to make any noise. The living room was empty. The kitchen was empty too. But the hall mirror now reflected something strange. A figure, female, standing behind him. He turned around. Nothing. He turned back to the mirror. The figure had disappeared, but a word appeared, drawn in the dust on the surface. It returned. Ezra stood there, staring at his own reflection. For the first time in years, he felt small in his own skin. The house was empty. Not really. Night fell slowly. He lit some candles he found in a kitchen drawer. The electricity seemed intermittent, and the darkness inside had a density that disconcerted him. He sat down on the sofa in the living room and rested his head. He would try to sleep right there. But before he closed his eyes, he saw, through the window, a woman standing near the dunes, staring at the house. "Camille?" He jumped up and ran to the door, but when he came out, the beach was empty. Just the sound of the sea. the wind and his own heartbeat echoing in his head. But the smell, it was in the air. Jasmine, salt, and something else, something I didn't know if it was perfume or a memory. Ezra closed his eyes and said in a low voice, like a secret that only he could hear, "I never left you, Camille." And the tide rose. Ezra woke to the gray light of morning flooding the room. The candles had gone out during the night, and the fireplace remained cold. A blanket had been placed over his body, but he didn't remember doing it. He got up slowly, his body aching from sleeping on the old couch. As he passed the kitchen, he saw a mug on the table. Dark, lukewarm tea. Someone had made it recently. There was no other explanation. The mug hadn't been there the night before. Ezra's heart raced. A sense of foreboding washed over him, as if the house were slowly waking up. Or worse, as if it had never slept at all. Determined to understand what was happening, he went back upstairs. The dawn light filtered through the cracks in the windows, casting long shadows down the hallway. At the end of it, a frosted glass door caught her attention. She had never noticed it before. It was located where there used to be a balcony. Camille loved that space, saying that there the sea seemed to speak more softly, as if it were whispering secrets only to those who knew how to hear them. Now that balcony had become a closed room, the glass room, as someone had written in small letters on a plaque on the side. The doorknob was cold. Ezra tried to spin her around. Nothing. Locked. But then, from within, he heard something. A melody, played on a piano, the unmistakable notes of Chopin. His heart sank. "Camille?" he called, almost without realizing it. The music stopped abruptly. The silence that followed was unnatural. It wasn't just an absence of sound. It was as if the air itself was shrinking, waiting, fearing. Ezra pressed his forehead against the cold glass of the door. His eyes strained to see through the opacity, but he could only make out vague shapes. There was something, or someone in there. Then came the voice. "You took your time, Ezra." He drew back. The voice was feminine, low, enveloping, and very much like Camille's. "Who's there?" he asked, trying to contain his trembling. Silence. Then the sound of footsteps. Slow, coming towards him. Ezra took 2 steps back, as if the glass might give way at any moment. But he didn't give in. The door remained closed. He touched the doorknob again, this time with more force. It turned. The door opened. The room was empty. Only the sea outside, visible through the large windows. The light reflecting off the waves created hypnotic patterns on the light wooden floor. In the center of the room, an upholstered bench. On it, a hairbrush with long, dark strands still attached to the bristles. And on the window glass in the background, a handprint. Ezra approached slowly. The mark wasn't recent, but it didn't look old either. It had defined contours. It was as if someone had touched it minutes before. He touched the spot. Warm, like skin. He took a deep breath. He could smell her in the air. Her perfume with notes of jasmine, amber, and something that reminded him of sea air permeating ancient silk. Was he losing control? Was that it? Or was the house trying to show something? He returned to the main room. He opened the closet, looking for anything that might serve as a clue. Among the old clothes, an envelope fell out, yellowed, with his name handwritten on it. Ezra. Camille's handwriting immediately. But it was impossible. She would never let something like that go unnoticed. Inside the envelope, a note. "If you ever come back and hear my voice where it shouldn't be, don't trust what you feel. Trust what you remember. She'll try to look like me, but she's not me." The handwriting faltered in the last few lines, as if Camille was tired or afraid. Ezra folded the note carefully. His eyes burned. The doorbell rang. He froze. No one knew he was there. No one, but he walked down slowly, each step a hammering of tension in his ears. He opened the door. A woman, tall, waist-length black hair, porcelain white skin, dark eyes, not brown, black, bottomless. "Hi," he said, smiling. "Am I too early?" Ezra was speechless. For a moment he was sure it was Camille, but something was wrong. Her expression, her smile, the way she was looking at him, as if she had known him for a long time. "Who are you?" She tilted her head slightly, as if savoring the question. Let's say, I'm someone sent to help you. Help with what? She took a step closer. The scent was familiar, warm, almost intoxicating. To remember. Ezra frowned. The breeze from the sea blew between them. She wore a light navy blue dress that danced in the wind. Camille left you things, she said, almost like a secret. Things that shouldn't be forgotten. How do you know that? She smiled, but her eyes didn't follow the gesture. Because I was here. Before, when she was still breathing. Ezra felt a shiver run down his spine. Something about that sentence felt wrong, as if the words had two layers, one spoken, one suggested. What's your name? He insisted. She stared at him for long seconds. You already know. You just don't remember. And then, without asking permission, he walked past him and entered the house. Ezra didn't stop her. He couldn't. He just watched her walk as if the place belonged to her. As if I were coming home. The sound of her bare feet on the floorboards echoed softly, as if the entire structure were paying attention. Ezra followed the mysterious woman down the hallway, watching her posture, the deliberate slowness with which she moved. Each step seemed measured, designed to be heard. She didn't look back, as if she was certain he would follow. And he did. Deep down, Ezra no longer knew whether he was acting out of curiosity, hypnosis, or desire. Everything seemed mixed together. She stopped at the stairs that led to the basement. The door, which had been sealed for years, was now ajar. He had never known what Camille kept there. She said that some things need to sleep where the light doesn't reach. Did you leave that door open? He asked. I don't. The house let me, she replied, without turning her face. She wants you to see it too. Ezra hesitated. His instincts screamed at him not to go down. But there was a greater force, internal, that pushed him. Something between guilt and necessity. The steps creaked under the weight of the past. The musty smell grew stronger with each step. But there was another scent, strange for this dark, stuffy place, perfume. The same one that permeated Camille's room. Jasmine, amber, and something mineral, almost like iron. In the basement, he found a trunk in the corner of the stone wall. It was locked with an old padlock. On it lay a blue scarf, the one Camille wore when she had a cold. It still smelled of her. The woman bent down beside the chest, ran her fingers over the padlock, and with a soft click, it opened by itself. Ezra didn't have time to ask how. Inside, a wooden box carved with symbols, and inside it, perfume bottles. Small, numbered bottles. Handwritten labels with dates and emotions. Essence 1, first touch. Essence 4, unintentionally told lie. Essence 9, the night I dreamed of you screaming. Essence 19, what remains after. Ezra picked up the last one. The glass was warm, as if someone had held it just a few minutes ago. Did Camille make perfumes? He asked, confused. The woman nodded, almost reverently, but not with flowers. She distilled memories. Ezra turned the vial between his fingers. The basement light, filtering through the grated window, illuminated golden particles within the liquid. That's impossible, he muttered. She came closer, very close. The heat from her body radiated. Her soft breath brushed his face. And then she whispered, what you feel, is it really impossible? Or is it just you trying to forget what you experienced? Ezra didn't answer. Her eyes were so close, so dark. They were like mirrors, and he saw his own image there. Lost, confused, fascinated, without understanding why. He brought the bottle to her neck and let a drop of perfume run down. She closed her eyes, as if receiving a blessing. The aroma spread, and Ezra was overcome by a memory that was not just his. One night, Camille laughing in front of the mirror, naked, smudging her lipstick and asking, do you love me because I'm yours or because you never had me? The memory faded like mist. Ezra staggered back a step. His chest felt tight. What's happening to me? You're remembering, she replied calmly. And that hurts. The woman ran her fingers over his face, as if comforting a frightened child. But that's how it starts. First comes the memory, then comes the desire, finally despair. Ezra stepped back. Who or what are you? She smiled with her lips, but not with her eyes. I am everything that Camille kept in jars. I am what was left when you left. I am what you wanted to forget. And then she was gone. Not with a pop, not with lights or wind. She just wasn't there anymore. Ezra stood in the basement, surrounded by the sense of emotions that had been distilled in silence. He picked up second vial. Essence 4, unintentionally told lie. It opened. The smell that came was of wine, cigarettes, and tears, and a phrase echoed inside his head, as if it were being whispered from somewhere in the house. I never cheated on you, Ezra. I just wished for another future. The vial fell from his hand. It shattered. The liquid ran down the stone floor, as if feeding the foundation of the house. Ezra walked out of the basement on shaky legs. He needed air. He needed to get out of there. But the house seemed bigger now, darker, and in the hallway, as he was going back up, he felt something pass behind him. He didn't see it. He just knew it. And the perfume came back. Stronger, denser, now embedded in it. The wind from the sea seemed stronger that afternoon. The windows vibrated in an irregular rhythm, as if someone outside was lightly touching them with their fingers. Ezra went upstairs with his hair still damp. He had washed his face several times to try to get rid of the perfume that had clung to his skin. But it was no use. He still felt, and with him came the memories. Loose fragments, without linearity, but intense as if they had just happened. Camille reading silently. Camille crying in the bathroom. Camille with a wine-stained mouth, saying he didn't listen to what he didn't want to hear. And now that woman. Who was she? An echo of Camille? A delusion? Ezra entered her old office, a narrow room with a low desk and shelves filled with books on botany, chemistry, and spirituality. In the center of the table, as if placed there on purpose, lay a dark-covered notebook. The leather was aged, stained with age. The title was hand-engraved in red ink. Drowned Hours. Camille's handwriting emerged, vivid, dense, full of feeling. Some memories cannot be carried in the body. They need to be diluted, but they do not disappear. They just slowly drown. Today, the essence took me to the night. He said he would come back and didn't. I smelled the scent of lies. It was too sweet. The notes did not follow a chronology. They were emotional, sensory, almost ritual records. On one of the pages, Camille recounted a dream. He walked around the house like a stranger. He didn't see me. He touched objects as if they were sacred, but I was invisible. And then she appeared, with my face, but without my eyes. He kissed her, and I woke up crying with the taste of her mouth on mine. Ezra closed the notebook for a moment, his stomach churning. This was more than a diary. It was an emotional record transcribed into words and scents, an intimate archaeology of everything they had lived through and everything they had never understood. He flipped through a few more pages and found a piece of tape stuck on it. Cassette. Old. Written in shaky handwriting. Recording 43. Voice of the Night. He picked up an old tape recorder that was on the shelf next to him and inserted the tape. He pressed play. Hiss. Noise. Then the voice. Ezra, if you're listening to this, then you've ended up where you shouldn't have. Maybe she lured you here. Maybe you came here of your own free will. But it doesn't matter anymore. This house is a place where time bends, where emotions take shape, where what you feel takes on a body, and sometimes face. I tried to warn her. I tried to seal everything in the basement, but it didn't work. She survived. She wants to be loved. She wants to be you. And if you let her, she will be. The recording ended with a sharp, dry noise. Ezra dropped the recorder onto the table. A chill ran down his spine. In the window next door, he noticed something strange. Outside, in the garden, someone had drawn a symbol in the sand. A circle within a diamond, bisected by a vertical line. He came down in a hurry. The wind had suddenly calmed, as if the house had held its breath. Outside, the symbol was still intact, traced with precision. And there, next to him, a new mark. Bare footprints heading towards the beach. Ezra followed the trail, guided by the breeze and the sound of the sea growing louder. When he reached the sandbar, the tide was already rising, and there she was, standing with her feet in the water, her dress clinging to her body, her hair flying like a dark flag. The woman, she turned around slowly. "You read it, didn't you?" Ezra nodded. "The tape, the diary, everything." She smiled. "So you understand now." She raised me. Ezra walked closer, his feet sinking into the damp sand. "Are you a creation? I am what she could not bear to carry. I am what she distilled. I am the part of her that wanted too much, that needed too much, that loved too much." Ezra felt his heart race. "And why are you here now?" "Because you came back, and because I am also you." She reached out, touching his face. Ezra didn't back down. The touch was cold, but deeply familiar. He closed his eyes. He remembered nights when Camille would cry without explanation, saying there was something inside her wanting to get out. And now it was before him. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice cracking. She moved closer, her lips almost touching his. "I want to be whole. I want to be remembered. I want to be loved." And then she was gone again, like a wave receding, taking with it the sand beneath the feet of those left behind. Ezra stood there alone, with the sound of the sea and her voice still whispering inside him. The nights and night tide no longer brought rest. Ezra slept in fragments, amidst whispers, soft footsteps, and echoes of music that seemed to play only inside his head. Every time he closed his eyes, she was there, sometimes in the room, sometimes in the reflection of a foggy mirror, or on the edge of the bed, just watching. He never said his name, but he always pronounced his, with an intimacy that made her spine shiver. On the fifth night, Ezra woke from a wet dream of longing and confusion. The sheets stuck to his sweaty body. Turning his face, he saw an imprint on the pillow next to him, as if someone had been lying there just seconds before. There was also a dark hair, perfectly aligned with the fold of the fabric. The feeling of not being alone was no longer a hunch. It was a realization. He went down to the kitchen, trying to compose himself. His hands were shaking slightly as he turned on the stove. He wanted coffee, something hot, concrete. But when he opened the cutlery drawer, there was a perfectly folded napkin, held in place by a sewing pin. Inside, handwritten sentence. She wouldn't let me call her by her name, but I knew it was Camille, even when it wasn't. Ezra dropped the paper. With each passing day, the boundaries between memory, identity, and presence became more blurred. Her perfume, or their perfumes, now permeated the rooms. The bedroom, the staircase, the armchair in which Camille read at night. Everything was invaded by the aroma that, more than smelling, seemed to whisper, as if each molecule of the essence were saying, "Remember me." He decided to go out, walk, breathe. The beach was gray and dense, with a mist that seemed to stick to his skin. But there, among the rocks, he saw her, the woman, sitting, arms around her knees, staring out to sea. This time, it didn't disappear. It remained when he approached, as if it wanted to be seen. Ezra stopped a few steps away. "What's your name?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. She continued to look at the horizon. "You know my name," he added in a lower tone. "You always knew." She turned around. The black eyes, deep as the sea at night, stared at him for long seconds. "I know," she said. "Then tell me yours." She smiled slightly, a sad smile. "I don't have one." Ezra frowned. "That's impossible." She stood up slowly, brushing the sand off her legs with gentle movements. "You've given me so many names. You called me Shadow. You called me Camille. You called me Pain. You called me Madness. But you never called me for what I am." Ezra remained silent. She walked up to him, very close, so close that their noses were almost touching. "I am the desire you left hanging. I am the kiss that never happened. I am the version of her you never touched. The one you wanted, but didn't allow yourself to want." Ezra felt the words like delicate blades cutting fissures inside him. She continued, "Camille loved you, but she also feared you. She feared what you brought forth inside her. She feared that you would see everything, and not stay." Ezra tried to respond, but the words got lost in his throat. She reached out and touched his face tenderly. "You miss her, but you desire me." "You're not her," Ezra murmured, more as an attempt at persuasion than as certainty. No, he confirmed. I'm what she buried, so she could keep loving you. She kissed him. A calm, silent, deep kiss. A kiss that wasn't just made of mouth, but of time, of memories, of everything that never happened between them, but could have. Ezra gave in, didn't fight. He tasted her, and it was the taste of memory, of the sea, of regret, and of the jasmine perfume Camille wore on her wrists on nights when she wanted to be loved without questions. He woke up hours later alone on the sand. The sky was darkening. The tide was rising. When he got up, he saw a single word engraved in the sand beside him. Ezra. It was not written by him, but it was there, permanent, as if the ocean itself had written it. She knew his name, and now he knew this was just the beginning. Night fell like a thick veil over night tide. Every light in the house flickered with irregular frequency. Ezra spent the day in a state of wakefulness, unable to clearly distinguish what was memory, what was perception, and what had already become hallucination. Or perhaps, he thought, the house was just showing what had always been there. On paper, he tried to organize. Notebooks, recordings, visual records. But each attempt to give logic to events dissolved into sensations. Smell, touch. The memory of a whisper spoken between sleep and delirium. At 12:31 a.m., he installed a camera in the main hallway of the house, another in the glass bedroom, and a voice-activated recorder in the room where the woman usually appeared. He sat on the couch, surrounded by monitors, trying to create a rational distance between himself and the experience. At 0:43, the clock stopped. Literally, the second hand began to vibrate, swinging back and forth like a broken pendulum. Ezra glanced at the hallway camera monitor. Nothing. He looked at the one in the room. Empty. But in the glass room, something was moving. A shadow. Feminine. Passing slowly in front of the window. Ezra stood up suddenly. He ran upstairs, his blood pounding in his ears. The glass door to the room was ajar. He pushed it open. Inside, the room was flooded with a blue light, as if moonlight had materialized inside. And she was standing in the center, barefoot, wearing a black silk robe that slid over her body like smoke. Her hair was loose. Her eyes were closed. Her lips moved as if she were murmuring something, but no sound came out. Ezra hesitated in the doorway. She opened her eyes. "You came," he said, with a smile that was pain and promise at the same time. "What time is it?" he asked. "The time when rejected feelings take shape." She walked up to him. "The time when you can no longer lie to yourself." Ezra tried to pull away, but his feet fell glued to the ground. She stopped in front of him. She touched his mouth with 2 fingers. "You don't kiss me because you're afraid of liking me, but you've been dreaming about me since before I existed." Ezra closed his eyes. He could smell her, feel her warmth, feel the silent call of what he had always wanted and always denied. She kissed him. Slow, deep, almost ritualistic. And in that kiss, the images came. Camille lying in the fetal position, whispering she's watching me. The first time he refused to listen. The last time he touched her skin before he disappeared. Ezra lost control. They made love there, in the glass room, among reflections, shadows, and the sound of the sea rising like an ancient choir. But there was no pure pleasure. It was something darker, more intimate, as if every touch summoned forgotten pieces. Every moan was a confession. Afterwards, lying beside her, the silence seemed greater than the world. She turned to him, her eyes shining. "Now you belong to me too." "What does that mean?" he asked, almost voiceless. "It means that it's no longer enough to remember. You've already started to forget who you are." Ezra sat down. The room was empty. He looked around. No cameras, no blue lights, no women, just a mirror on the wall. And in it, his reflection watched him smiling. A smile he didn't feel on his own face. Ezra woke up sweating, his body still shaking, with a feeling that the night had been more than a dream, more than desire. It had been a kind of surrender, not just physical, but symbolic. Something inside him had been touched and transformed. He looked around. The room was in order, but there were things out of place inside him. He went downstairs, feeling a faint ringing in his ears, as if he had spent too much time underwater. The house was plunged into a thick silence, and even the sound of the sea seemed muffled. In the room, he found something new. In the center of the oriental rug, someone had left a small wooden box with delicate carvings. When he opened it, he found a satin ribbon and a card with the following written in curved letters: "For what has not yet been said." Inside the box, the last essence. No label, no number, just an amber bottle, almost black, as if it held not a fragrance, but an absence. Ezra hesitated. Then it opened. The scent that emerged was unlike any before. Not floral, not mineral. It was the smell of a place, of a moment. The smell of the house itself at the moment Camille had said, "I'm afraid of what I am when I'm with you." Ezra staggered. He sat on the floor, trying to catch his breath. But then she appeared. Not like before. Not like shadow or illusion. She was there, present, wearing a light white dress, barefoot, with her hair loose. Her eyes less dark, her skin more real. "You let me in," she said, her voice almost childlike. "Now I can be whoever you wanted me to be." "Who are you?" Ezra asked again, without the strength to maintain his posture. She knelt beside him. She ran her fingers over his face the way Camille had done when she soothed him. "I am your version of Camille, the one you never had the courage to ask for, the one you shaped in silence, with desire, with guilt." Ezra closed his eyes. "That's crazy." "No," she replied. "That's you. I'm what's left of what you didn't live." She pulled him close, and this time he didn't resist. They made love on the living room floor, without words, without logic, with the urgency of those who know that time is about to bend. But there was something wrong. During the act, her eyes changed. Sometimes they were Camille's eyes. Sometimes they were those of a complete stranger. And sometimes neither. Then she lay on his chest and was silent. Ezra ran his fingers through her hair. "Are you real? Not in the way you understand. But you feel me, don't you?" He nodded. She lifted her face. She looked deep into his eyes. "Do you want to go?" Ezra hesitated. The truth was, he didn't know anymore. She smiled. "You don't need to answer. Your body already said it." Ezra stood up slowly, trying to compose himself. But when he looked back, she was no longer there. Would she have been lying? There was a stain on the carpet. Spilled perfume, or something else. He walked up the stairs, his feet unsteady, his chest tight. As he entered the room, something made him stop. The wardrobe mirror was covered in sentences written in red lipstick. "You don't recognize me, but you've always dreamed of me." The touch that was missing. The woman who existed only because you wanted her. Ezra fell to his knees. It was fragmenting. I no longer knew where Camille ended and the other began, or if they were the same thing, or if all of this was him. The night was so silent that the sound of his own heart seemed too loud. Ezra walked barefoot through the hallways of the house, as if it had become an extension of his body or his mind. Every door, every floor, every mirror seemed to have something of his, something of hers, something of them. The stop clock read 0:43. Again, and once again he listened. The music. It wasn't piano this time. It was singing. Soft, long, painful, as if the sea were singing with a woman's voice. Ezra followed the sound to the basement. The door was wide open, the darkness inviting as a womb. It went down. The cold grew with each step. The smell of perfume, damp and metallic, mixed with the mold and salt. And then he saw her, the woman, or what was left of it, dressed in shadows, as if she wore his feelings as skin. She sat in front of the full-length mirror, the same one Camille used to get ready. But now the surface reflected nothing, not even Ezra. "The time has come," she said, without turning around. "You must decide." Ezra didn't move. "Decide what?" "Whether you stay with me, or you leave and take all this with you." "But if you leave, Ezra, you'll never remember me the right way." She turned around, and in that instant he understood. She was all of them. Camille, the woman who cried on the balcony, the shadow that lay beside him, the desire he never confessed, the pain you pretended not to see. It was him too, his loneliness, his refusal, his need to transform love into absence so as not to commit himself to the weight of feeling too much. She reached out her hand. "If you go in, you won't come back." Ezra looked into the mirror. It still reflected nothing. No shadow, no time, just a clean void. He came closer. "If I come in, will you disappear?" "No," she replied. "I will finally exist." Ezra closed his eyes. He remembered the perfume on Camille's wrists, the sound of the tide crashing against the windows, from the moment he chose to leave and never came back, of everything I didn't say, of everything he felt, and threw to the bottom of the sea. Then he whispered, "I remember you." The woman smiled. Tears streamed from her eyes, but it wasn't sadness. It was acceptance. Ezra touched the mirror, and for the first time, he reflected. But it did not reflect the present. He reflected on his last night with Camille, the moment before goodbye, the unspoken word, the denied kiss, the drowned confession. Ezra smiled, and then he turned his back. He went up the stairs. He left the house. The sea breeze gently enveloped him. The sky was slowly lightening. He walked across the sand, the world feeling lighter. When he looked back, the house was gone, as if it had never been there, or as if it were exactly where it should be, inside him. And that morning, for the first time in many years, Ezra Delacroix cried, not from pain, but as a souvenir, because she was no longer a shadow. She was memory, and so it was eternal.